recognizes Ms. Jackson-Lee.
I, too, would like to thank the Chairman and Ranking Member for this hearing, and I would also like to thank each of the presenters, members of the panel, for your service to this nation. Having served on this committee from the beginnings of the recovery period of 9/11, when the Select Committee on Homeland Security was first formed to create this department, I know how important the issues that all of you gentlemen are speaking of are to the nation and to the security of America. I think it is important, even in this meeting, to hold up the Constitution, to tell all of those who would have a malicious intent toward the United States is that we will not sacrifice our values, our liberty, our commitment to equality and justice for their terroristic ways. And I thank all of you for recognizing, as my ranking member indicated, that we are not here to label a faith, Islam, or the Muslim people. We are here to ensure the security and safety of the United States of America. I want to, first of all, say that as I was looking over materials that I think are relevant, I think it is important to note from an article, and I ask unanimous consent to put into the record an article by William McCants, who indicated that the issue or the idea of ISIL began in 2006, long before President Obama, long before Secretary Johnson or anyone was in the positions that they were in today, and before the American withdrawal from and had at that time popular backing. So let me be very clear. I believe our President has been very effective in trying to both downsize and bring down the war in Iraq and as well address the national security of the American people. I will not vote for an authorization for war, but we cannot talk about ISIL without doing something. So I will vote today for ensuring that other fighters, in this instance the Free Syrian Army, is well trained to do the job. That means that we here in the United States must be very sure of what we are doing to protect the homeland. Mr. Johnson, I would ask, Secretary Johnson, I'd ask just a follow-up question on my colleague, Mr. Thompson. Coming from Texas, do you feel that you have sufficient federal resources on the border to, if there was such an intrusion, that your staffing between ICE, which is on the inner side, between the Border Patrol, intelligence, working with your colleagues, do you believe you have the right and necessary resources?
We have more resources today than we have had at any time previously. Over the last several years, we have put at the border, particularly the southwest border, an unprecedented level of resources in terms of people, technology, vehicles, and other equipment. As you know, I'm sure, Congresswoman, apprehensions over the last 14 years have gone down. They've gone up this year because of the spike in the Rio Grande Valley sector. But we could use more. And the bill passed by the Senate last year, S744, would have gone a long way to providing additional resources, additional personnel for the southwest border.
Thank you.
Toward border security.
Thank you.
I
wanted to be clear, if I could, because my time is running, that you do have, I do support that legislation, and I would rather have the federal resources than unpaid National Guard that has been put down by the governor of the state of Texas. Let me quickly ask the question to all of you. We know that we've been hacked. All of us have been hacked. But the question is, are you able to discern the distinction between the identity thief hackers and that of the state hackers that are coming in as terrorists on the cybersecurity grid? Could you all answer that question? And my last question, so I'd get it in so you can answer it if you might. The women of this nation are seemingly targets of recruitment for ISIL, women coming from Western nations, poor, maybe uneducated. Are we having a special target to recognize the concern for those women and how we would stop that? If all three of you could answer it, I'd appreciate it.
Congresswoman, let me begin with the question on cyber. As Director Comey suggested, we face cyber threats from a range of different types of actors, and I think we do a pretty good job of detecting the nature and the type of actor for each specific attack, but it's a range from private individuals to others. And I'll defer to my colleagues.
I'd agree with Secretary Johnson, though attribution gets increasingly difficult as the thieves get increasingly sophisticated and some of their techniques come to rival those of nation states. But we do a reasonably good job of being able to sort them out. And with respect to the recruitment of women, you're absolutely right. There is a targeted effort by ISIL to attract fighters and people who would be spouses of fighters. Given the nature of their male orientation, the spouses are always women. They're trying to attract them from all over the West to come to their so-called caliphate to start families in their warped world.
Mr. Olson.
I would only add to what Director Comey said about the recruitment of women. Among the most barbaric aspects of what ISIL has done in Iraq is the enslavement of women and young girls, and so it's obviously a huge concern to us. And if I may add, Ms. Jackson-Lee, that you held up the Constitution in today's Constitution Day. And,
yes, it is.
And I would say that the Director of National Intelligence, Jim Clapper, yesterday held a swearing in for those of us to reaffirm our commitment to the Constitution and with the workforce. And I think that reflects the commitment within NCTC and the broader intelligence community to our fidelity to the Constitution.
And if I might, Mr. Chairman, thank Mr. Olson for his service and ask unanimous consent. I believe I asked for unanimous consent for this, but I'd also ask for unanimous consent, which I'd like to refer to the Chairman's review, H.R. 5488, which I'd like to ask unanimous consent just to put into the record, which is legislation that is called No Fly for Foreign Fighters. It doesn't tie your hands, but it refines the watch list to make sure that everyone that should be on it is on it, particularly since the foreign fighter concept is continuing to grow. I ask unanimous consent to introduce that into the record and look forward to discussing it with you gentlemen.
Without objection.
Thank you very much. I yield back.
Dr. Brown from Georgia.